Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us for the learning of Torah, Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach, as we broadcast here from our flagship station at Agudas Yisroel Bezev of Fairways, Lakewood, with continued appreciation to TorahAnytime.com for giving us a platform to broadcast Torah in 187 countries, to Kol HaLashon for its global availability to people who do not use more advanced technology, for YouTube, for Facebook, for Torah Communications Network, for our digital subscribers, of course, our Zoomers and everybody here live in the Kehillah. Tonight we have one sponsor, my dear Talmud, Dr. Sana and Rhonda Block, who are very beautifully sponsoring the Shiur with the Tefillah to Hashem that in the schus of our learning, all hostages should be recovered safely and soundly. There should be safety to our brave soldiers and security for Klal Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael and Yidden around the world. Again, we didn't get the sponsor till a few hours before the Shiur. For future weeks, if you would like to sponsor, 718-916-3100. That's 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. I'm going to start off the Shiur tonight with a subject that I've spoken about for several years, but I have more to say about it this year, having researched it and having a new idea about it. So be patient with me if you say, Rabbi Weiss, you already talked about this. It says that Avram, in his travels, Vayet Oholoi, he pitched his tent. However, Oholoi, instead of being spelled Aleph Hey Lamed Vav, it's spelled in the feminine Aleph Hey Lamed Hey, as if to say that he pitched her tent. So Rashi tells us it does it with the feminine Hey to teach us, and Rashi is not saying this on his own, he's quoting the Medrash from Reish's Rabbah, that he pitched his wife's tent first, and then he pitched his own. And as the Sifsei Chachamim says, this is to teach us the proper behavior, as the Gemara says in Yevamis Samech Beis Zamech Beis, Chayiv Adam L'Kchabed Es Ishto Yosim Megufay. He has to honor his wife more than himself. So after all, we learn this Chumash, which is called Sefer HaYosher, to learn the ways of the Yesharim, the proper behavior of a husband and wife. So it's the proper behavior of a husband to pitch his wife's tent first, and then his tent. And a simple example of this, that we say that a husband has to give covet to his wife more than to himself, is that if a person has a more limited budget, he should spend more money on clothing and shoes for his wife than for himself. Now, anyway, that's obvious because that is the unique simcha to a woman. Ain't simcha leisha ela bebegadim meguhatzim. But it's also because clothing is considered a type of honor, like it says v'chibadetoi about Shabbos, that you should honor the Shabbos with a special ksus, with ksus nekiah, clean and special clothing. So we have that certain people call their clothing machbedusei, and therefore when it says you should honor your wife more than yourself, you should spend more on the sheitel than the shreimel. You should spend more on her shoes than on your shoes. And that, by the way, is a clear part of the Tanai Ksuva. The Ksuva says, Ona Eflach v'okir v'ezen v'afarnes yasichi lichi. So afarnes means to clothe. Clothing is a very big part. You should know when you spend money on the taffeta, when you spend money, don't say, oh, I can't believe for that piece of cloth I'm paying $400, $500. You should know that you're fulfilling your Tanai Ksuva. Of course, when we say that you should be mechabed your wife, our wives, more than ourselves, that of course means much more. We know that the beginning of the obligation of the ksuva, after saying Ana Eflach, I'll work, we say Oikir, that I will honor. Oikir means to give Yakar, right? Yakar lebalehen, to give honor. And we're supposed to honor our wives. Now that's, what do you mean? You're supposed to honor everybody. It says in Pirkei Avos, Yikfoid chavercha chavav alecha kishalach. The honor of your friend should be as precious as your own honor. So when it says you're pledging the ksuva to honor your wife, that means to honor more than everybody else. And that's something to bear in mind. It means that we never should farshame our wives in public. That is being a traitor to what you went under the chuppah for. That's a davar pasha. But it also means that you should reserve your most nicest talk for your wife. That's what it says. Just like you want to be talked to nicely. It says that the covet of your wife should be more than yourself. Now, but this pshat in Rashi really doesn't answer the question. Because if it just meant to say that Avram pitched his wife's tent before his own, so then it should have said Vayet Ahala. He pitched her tent. We would know that Avram also had a tent, but it says he pitched her tent. He pitched her tent first. Why does it say Ahala, his tent, with the feminine hay? If it just wants to tell us that he pitched her tent, so say Vayet Ahala. He pitched her tent. So in the previous years, I answered this question by explaining that when he pitched her tent, he did it with the care and the concern and the attention as if it was his. And that's why it says Ahala with the masculine ahaloi, to teach us that he pitched her tent, but he did it not, okay, let me take care of hers and then I'll get to mine, I'll concentrate on mine. No, he did it with the meticulousness, with the concern, with the attention as if it was his own, which is, of course, a very good lesson. However, there's some other problems over here. And that is, you'll find, and it's actually the Dazakain Balitaisis asks this question on Rashi, on the Medrash. When it talks about Noach being fashemed, being disgraced, after he drank the wine, it says, Vayiskal b'soich ahaloi, and it's spelled Aleph Hey Lamed Hey. And over there, it's not teaching us that he pitched Nama's tent before he pitched his own. It's just saying that he was uncovered and disgraced. So over there, why does it say it with the hay? And not only that, if you look later on in the parsha, later on over here, in our parsha, remember it says that when he did the return trip, it says he went to Lamokam Asher Yesham Ahaloi B'Tchila, and again it does this Aleph Hey Lamed Hey, but Ahaloi, this interesting synthesis of saying the feminine, but with the masculine pronunciation. Now, we already learned the lesson once. Why does it do it again? So this year, I want to explain it differently. My first explanation stands, but I want to say it's teaching us an important lesson. And that is, if it was read Vayatek Ahala, Vayet Ahala, I might think he had a tent and she had a tent. And he slept in his tent and she slept in her tent. And when they needed to get together, they got together. The Torah wants to tell you absolutely not. It's not the Torah way at all that a husband and wife should sleep separately. They needed separate tents because it says that Avram was mekarev es ha'anoshim, v'Sarah mekarev es ha'anoshim. She had a girls' school, he had a boys' school. They couldn't be together. So they needed separate tents. But in the night, there was this fusion, vayet ahalah, it was with a hey, but it's pronounced ahaloi because he slept with her. Don't think that she slept in her tent and he slept in his tent and they slept separately. Now, some people might say, who would think that? I want you to know something. That my first Rebbitzin and I, we went on a trip once to Rhode Island. And I gave what was built the first Daf Yomi in the ancient Torah synagogue. And we were very fascinated by many things in the Torah synagogue. I once gave a shiur all about that trip. But then we went to tour 2 mansions. And one of the things that saddened me greatly was that these very rich people in these very rich homes, they had separate bedrooms. There was clearly a woman's bedroom with a woman powder room, and there was a man's bedroom. And this is very popular. Even to I don't want to pollute the shiur by talking about royal celebrities, but the Kate Middleton, she's a duchess. What is she? You know what?
Duchess of Cambridge.
She's
the Princess of Wales.
The Princess of Wales. She has what's considered a good marriage with her husband. Publicly, it's been revealed that they slept separately. This is not the way of Torah. The way of Torah is a husband and wife sleep together. That's what it says. Al kain yazov ish es aviv es imay v'davak be'ishtay. They live together. And therefore, in order to diffuse any such idea, it wouldn't say vayet ahala. And somebody will say, yes, she had her tent and he has his tent. So that's why it says ahala. He pitched her tent because she needs a separate tent for tznius when she's mekarev, says hanoshim. But it's pronounced ahaloi because he was with her all the time in the night. And that's why by Noach it also says it that way. Vayiskal b'soich ahaloi, because it was her tent, but he slept there. He slept with Nama. Later on, it says in the parsha, until when he came back to the place where his Oloi was betchila, again with the hay and the masculine. Now, and that's the way it is, that the man goes to the woman's tent. That's the way it was with Yaakov. Remember, that was the whole Indian with Reuven, that after Rachel Imenu died, Yaakov moved his marital bed into the tent of Bilhah. Reuven didn't like it. He said, it's one thing that my mother Leah had to play second fiddle to Rachel, but does she have to play second fiddle to the servant, to Bilhah, to the former servant? Right? But you see that Yaakov kept his bed in the woman's tent. And now, the truth of the matter is that somebody might say, I still don't know why you're making a big tzimis about this. Okay, you made a point. Okay, so they sleep together. Very nice. There is a bad habit which is becoming very, very popular today. And that is that husbands leave their wives frequently and go on boy vacations, and women leave their wives and go on women retreats. I don't think this is Torah-dik. The Torah meant for a husband and wife to be together. Now, it's true that it's more dangerous when the husband goes off without the wife. Husband goes off without his wife, and he's in hotel rooms, and he's alone. All kinds of temptations abound. But a woman shouldn't go alone either. It's becoming extremely popular. Now, women's retreats are wonderful for single women, for divorced women, for widows. It's a wonderful thing. But today, and of course, when the Yisroel does things, we know that it says that when the Malach fought with Yaakov, according to one opinion, it was Sarai Shel Esav, it was Samuel, it appeared as a Talmid Chacham. The Yisroel never comes without a disguise. So of course these retreats are Torah retreats, right? So that they're disguised in a very good thing, but it's not a good thing. Because first of all, if the women will go away alone, then the men will want equity and they'll want to go away alone. And it's not good for men to go, but it's not good for the marriage at all. Because there's a certain amount of time that people could get away. There's a certain amount of finances that people could use to get away. And that should be used for bringing the couple together. Also, when ladies get together, they begin to see they enjoy to get together better themselves. Because the women like the same thing. They like to dance. They like to do things that the husband's not interested in doing. So then she says, if I'm going to go away, I don't want to go away with my husband. Go away with my wife, with girlfriends. It's much more fun. If you're going to go away on a vacation and to have some quality time to bond, it should be together. It's not a Torah thing for men to go away alone, women to go out. Now, if it's business, case of business, sometimes we have to do things because of business. But it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Now, I remember at a Agudas convention, there was a Q&A with Rabbi Elephant from Eretz Yisrael and Rabbi Lepiansky. And the question was raised, what does the Rabbanim hold about going away without your spouse? And I remember Rabbi Elephant said, Oile Eisen, woe to the ear that has to hear such a question. Just, people from just one generation ago, it was simple that you didn't go to sleep without your wife. You didn't go to sleep without your husband. Now, I will tell you that the Art Scroll brings down from an unnamed source that the reason why it says Vayet Ahaloi with a hey is also because it's referring to the Ahalah Shel Torah. And that wherever Avram went, he made sure to make a place where he'll learn Torah. And this is brought down in the Pele Yoyetz, that a person should set a place in their home where they always learn Torah. A place to learn Torah. And that's very important. One of the things that we're going to be asked is Kavata Itim La Torah. The Sefer Be'er Shabbos says, he doesn't say like the reason of the Sifsei Chachamim, that he pitched his wife's tent first because he was giving honor to his wife more than himself. The Be'er Shabbos says it's for a different reason. What I said was the Sifsei Chachamim's explanation. He says he pitched his wife's tent first because it's nias. You have to first get the women out from being in the open. Then he'll pitch his tent. But first, kol kvuda bas melech pnima, the woman's sneers comes first. And then he says another interesting thing. He says, we know that he worked on the men, and Sarah worked on the women. He says Sarah's yeshiva had to have precedence. Because when you get the women, you get the whole family. And he says that's why it says by Matan Torah, Kol Yisayma Lebeis Yaakov V'Sagid L'Bnei Yisrael, first tell the girls. That's why we have to put so much emphasis on the chinuch of women. Because the women affect the whole family. They're the linchpin. That's what it says. Chachmas Nashim Bon Sabaisa. The wisdom of a woman builds her home. When I was preparing this year, I realized that the next thing that I'm going to speak about, I also spoke about many times before. But again, I have new insights in it, so I'm going to share it with you. We know that in a rare case of sternness, Sarah Imenu tells to her Chashiv husband, Chamasi Yolecha, which Artscroll translates as my outrage, that I am subjected to outrage, Alecha, I blame you. Or Chamasi, that which I'm being robbed, Chamas, Mal'aretz Chamas, Alecha, I blame you. And she said, severely, Yishpait Hashem beini ubeinecha. So what was Sarah's outburst over here? You know, outburst is probably the wrong way of saying it. What was Sarah's criticism? So Rashi says that she had two tainas on Avraham Avinu. The first one is that the fact that I didn't give birth, and therefore Hagar is making light of me, but take al gevirta b'einah, that outrage is alecha, is because of you. Because when you said your tefillah, matitein li, what will you give me? V'anoichi hoylech hariri. Why did you only daven for yourself? You should have said matitein lanu, v'anu holchin haririm. Why did you only pray for yourself? And the second thing is you're robbing me of words. When Hagar made light of me, you should have came to my defense. That was the two tainas that she had. So it's interesting that in the Pirkei Machshava of Rav Shach, great Rav Shach, who lived beyond all the gedolim of his time, the great Rav Shach, the Gadol Ador, Zechet Tzadik Levracha, Schus Yagan Aleinu, Rav Shach says that we don't look at it that if you don't daven for someone, you're robbing them. But he says you have to learn from this that if you don't daven for somebody, you're robbing them. So the first thing to start is that a person, we know that our tefillas are framed b'loshen rabbim. Slach lanu, forgive us, re'einu v'anyenu, see our suffering, refa'enu, cure us, shma keleinu. So everybody explains, we daven b'lashon rabim because Kol Yisroel arevim zelazeh. All of Klal Yisrael is responsible for one another. Achenu kol beis Yisrael. We're all brothers and sisters. We all have a Father in heaven. And also we know that it's b'lashon rabim because it's smart. Kol hamispal bad chaveiroi. When you pray for your friend, v'hu tzarich lo yiseh davar, you need it also. You'll be answered first. But the first thing you should say, I daven b'lashon rabim, because I'm davening for my spouse. When people wish you a toast that you should live, they don't say l'chai, they say l'chayim. Because you're a pair, husband and wife. Should always daven for your spouse. You're davening that the year should be kashanim atayvais, daven for your spouse. You're davening sim shalom, you should have peace of mind, daven for your spouse. You're davening atachaynein, that you shouldn't have any type of memory loss, you should have seichel, daven for your spouse. And if you don't, Rav Shach says, it's not that you just, well, that's not nice. You're a chamsen. You're robbing them. That's what we learned from here. And it's similar to the fact that the Gemara says those that are learning the Amud Yomi, you just learned in the beginning of Brachas, that when you don't greet a poor person, so it's gezla sa'ani biyedchem. You're stealing from the poor person. Now, Rashi says a poor person doesn't have anything to steal. You're stealing that you didn't greet him. He said shalom aleichem. You didn't. That's stealing. You don't daven for your wife, for your husband. You're stealing. It's something that we got to get into the habit of all the time. That's the first lesson over here. And by the way, it's not just for your spouse. Should daven for your parents. Part of the mitzvah of kabed asavicha v'esimecha is to daven for them. Even if they're not alive anymore. The Zohar says that you have a bigger chiyuv kibbud when they're not alive because they can't take care of themselves anymore. So then you should daven for them, that their menucha should be becovered. Peliyot says, you love somebody that passed away, daven for them from time to time, that their menucha should be becovered. You should pray for your children. It says, kabed esavicha v'esimecha leman yarichun yamecha. Doesn't say leman yarichu, it says leman yarichun. And Paneach Razu, one of the Rishonim, says that if you honor your parents, they will daven for you, and they will lengthen your life. L'man yarichun, your parents will lengthen your life because they're davening for you. So parents should daven for their children. These are responsibilities. Now let's go further. I believe, by the way, it's interesting that it uses the term chamas and not gezel. What's the difference between chamas and gezel? Gezel is when you steal something. Chamas is when you pay for it, when you force the person to sell it to you. I think over here the term chamas is used and not gezel, because the truth of the matter is that daven, but Sarah didn't even have a uterus. Not only was she an akara, but ein la valad. So you could say, well, there's nothing to daven for. Right? So that's maybe not stealing, it's more chamas. And also you could say, what should he have protested about Hagar? She didn't do anything. It's true. She had a child right away, and Sarah didn't. Right? So it's not that she did anything. It just says, "Vateikal gevirta beinah." She was lying in her eyes. It's true. But still, Avram should have came to a defense, as we'll talk about in a moment. I want to share with you a Maisa that Rameir Shapiro brings down, the great inventor of Daf HaYomi. Rameir Shapiro talks and brings down a Taz on Shulchan Aruch. The Taz says that Rabbeinu Tam once had a kohen, a disciple who was a kohen, wash his hands. He washed Rabbeinu Tam's hands for him. Another Talmud asked Rabbeinu Tam, how could you allow a kohen to do that? The Yerushalmi in Bracha says that whoever uses the service of a kohen commits me'ilah, commits trespass. So how could you allow a kohen to wash your hands? And Rabbeinu Tam didn't answer. So the Taz says, you know why Rabbeinu Tam didn't answer? Really, Rabbeinu Tam was allowed to have the kohen wash his hands, because since Rabbeinu Tam was one of the Gedolim, it wasn't a chore for the kohen, it was an honor for the kohen. And since it was an honor, a personal honor for him, that's not considered me'ilah. It's not considered using him, it's considered giving him something. But in order to do that, Rabbeinu Tam would have to say, well, you understand, I'm a big gadol. And Rabbeinu Tam didn't want to talk about himself. Because it says, Yahalucha zar v'loi picha. Let a stranger praise you, not yourself. Says Rameir Shapiro, that was the taina. Because one wonders, Sarah didn't defend herself. Sarah didn't say to Hagar, you know, the reason why I don't have a children all these years is because Hashem wants to hear my tefillas. He doesn't want to hear your tefillas. Right? That's what it says. But it wasn't appropriate for her to say that. She said, Avram, you should have said that. That's what Meir Shapiro says. I can't defend myself. You know, I'm a tzaddik. But you could have said that about me. You could have defended me. And this is a great lesson. It happens often, sadly, that people are cavalier with the kavod of their rabbi, the kavod of their rav. I was just in a shul recently, and the rav got up to speak, and a man opens up a Gemara in front of everybody and starts learning right in front of the nose of the rabbi. That's such a chutzpah. But the rabbi can't say it. Rabbi can't say it. It's up to the congregants to say something. Here's another situation where there's a man that every time the rabbi gets up to speak, he walks out of the shul. Everybody sees it. Now, the rabbi can't defend his own honor. It's not the job of the rabbi to defend. It's a job of the gabbai, of the congregants. And remember that if you're not moicha, you're nitfas ba'isay oven. You're held to be an accomplice of the sin. And that's what Meir Shapiro is talking about over here. Meir Shapiro says, Avram, she couldn't say it, look, I'm a tzaddik. It was your job to say it. Ramiller mentions this, unrelated to this discussion, but Ramiller says that when a father hears a child talk with chutzpah to a mother, the father should not let that go. The father should say, excuse me, you don't talk to your mother that way. It's much better than the mother defending her own honor. And the same thing is true. If a mother hears a child being chutzpahdik to the father, I can't believe you would talk to your father that way. That's proper parenting. That's proper parenting. This is a very important lesson over here. Now, somebody has to come to the defense of Avraham Avinu. Sarah Imeinu had two tainas on Avraham Avinu. Number one, when you davened, why did you only daven for yourself? I mean, you're married. Why didn't you say, Rabbeinu Shalom, me and Sarah, we want a child already. We don't want to be aririm, childless. It's a big question. Later on, the Torah says that Yitzchak was very careful. Vayeta Yitzchak l'Hashem l'noichach ishtay. It's very clear that he davened for his wife. So, Rav David Cohn suggests that since they were both barren, it wouldn't be right to be mispal for a double miracle. And it could be also, the Gemara says that tefillah isemechza. When you daven for something, it accomplishes half. And since chayecha kodim, he davened for himself. But I always wanted to learn a different answer. Avraham Avinu was studying the situation. The Rabbeinu Shalom says that he's going to have children. And they're going to inherit Eretz Yisrael. The Rabbeinu Shalom told them. So Avram said, what's going on over here? What's going wrong? He says, it can't be the problems with Sarah because she's perfect. She's perfect. And the Torah testifies she's perfect. Remember when she passed away, it says that all her years, kulin shavin l'taiva, and that when she was 100, she was like 20 in sin. She was perfect. He says, it must be me. It must be me. It's not her. She's perfect. You know, sometimes, it's a big lesson in marriage. Sometimes we have a taina when really it's to the praise of Sarah Imeinu. That's the way I wanted to answer that taina. The other taina that she says, why didn't you come to my defense? I have a very big defense of Avraham Avinu. Why did Sarah Imeinu give over Hagar to marry Avram in the first place? She said, I need an extra schus. Maybe the schus of bringing a rival into my home, ulai yibana mimena. Why is that a schus to bring a rival? Because a rival is rivalry. Rival, there's some pushback, there's some friction. So Avram said, okay, you're getting friction. That's what we wanted. In the schus of that friction, you have a child. And that's the way it worked. That's why Hagar is B'gematria 208, and Yitzchak is B'gematria 208. And the schus of Hagar, they had Yitzchak. So he said, I should stop it? The friction was created in order that in the schus that you accepted that friction, you have a child. And now when there's friction, I should stop it? So that's my defense of Avraham Avinu. And now we come, it's a very interesting shiur. And again, I don't want to bother you, but again, here we ended up having one of the sponsors for my inner circle of Talmidim, when I know we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people listening to these shiurim. Please, let's get some new people to sponsor. Sponsor a shiur is $360. 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. And we learn with our thoughts to fuel the Iron Dome, to strengthen our soldiers, to rescue the hostages, and to give security to Klal Yisrael. So we know that Avraham Avinu, because of a famine, is propelled to go down to Mitzrayim. They go down to Mitzrayim, and he's worried that they'll want to take his beautiful wife to the king, and they'll kill the husband. That was a common thing. So he says, Imri na achoisi at. Say that you are my sister. So this way, they won't bump me off. So what's the obvious question? He's telling Sarah what to say. So you should say, Imri na achihu. Please say he's my brother. Or at least, Imri na achoso ani. I'm his sister. Why does it say Imri na achoisiat? He's telling her what to say. Achoisiat is what he would say, that you're my sister. But he's telling her what she should say if she's asked. So it should say Imri na achihu or Imri na achoso ani. It's an obvious question. So the question is asked by the Paneach Raza. The question is asked by the Moshe Zakain and Bali Tosfos. So the Moshe Zakain and Bali Tosfos and the Paneach Raza give a remarkable answer. They said that Sarah Imenu, he originally said to Sarah, say that you're my brother. Say that I'm your brother. And she said, look, I don't want to lie. I don't want to lie. I don't think the hishtadlus is to lie. The Torah says, Midvar Sheker Tirchak, even though it was before Mount Torah, but we know they were Mekayim the whole Torah. Torah says, Midvar Sheker Tirchak. She don't want to lie. So then, Abraham said, okay. Then when I say, Achoisi at, you're my sister, just don't deny it. Just be quiet. That she was masculine to. She don't want to lie. To say, Achiyu, that he's my brother, it's not true. No. I told you once I was with a big, about 500 singles. And somebody asked, I don't want to say my age. I say my age, people don't want to marry me. So is it okay to lie? Is it okay to lie? If I say I'm 70, I look very young. I say I'm 62. If I say I'm 70, I'm a goner. So I said to him, look, the shidduch is from Shemayim. All you have to do is ishtadlus. Do you think that your ishtadlus that Hashem wants is to lie? When Chaysam Eshal Kadosh Baruch Hu emes? So sorry, Meinu felt you have to do ishtadlus. I don't want to lie. Avram didn't feel that way. Avram says the situation pikuch and fashes. Pikuch and fashes. So she didn't do it, so he did it. He says, I'm going to say, Akoisiyat, you're my sister. And it makes a lot of sense because later on it fits very well. Because later on, Paro said to Avram, right? Lama amarti achoisi. Why did you say that she is my sister? So it doesn't say that Sari Meinu said it. It says that he said it. So it means that just like it says that Lot was rewarded because he kept quiet, Sari Meinu kept quiet. So I'm gonna tell you a very interesting Medrash Pliya. Very interesting. Is a Medrash over here that when they said that she was a sister, Mikan sheshoichten l'chayla b'Shabbos. From here we learn that you shecht for a sick person on Shabbos. What? What does that have to do with anything? So there's a very interesting rivet. If somebody was very sick, and it was pikuch nefashis on Shabbos, so they were allowed to be given meat. should you give to the chayla nevela, not kosher meat, or should you shecht an animal on Shabbos and give him kosher meat? So the Ravid says better give a nevela. Because if you give nevela, the only person that's doing the avera is the chayla. The chayla could do it because it's pekuch nefashis. Why should you make a healthy person shecht and be over the issa d'oraisa of chilul Shabbos? However, the place can push it away and say no. When it comes to pikuach nefesh, whoever does quickly, as the Gemara says in Yuma Peiches, is better. So somebody should shecht meat for him. And they bring a raya from over here that Sari Meinu said, Achaisi. She didn't have to do it. Avram was in the danger. He should have done it. So some learned that Sari Meinu did it for that reason. But, as we said from two of the Rishonim, from the Paneach Raza, and from the Moshe Zekanim Bali Taisus, Sari Meinu didn't want to do it. And therefore Avram said, I'm going to do it. It's a pikuach nefesh. I'll do it. Just don't deny it. Be quiet. I'm going out on a limb here. The language is usually lule de mistafina. If not that, I was afraid. But I have Avram on my side. I think Sarah Imenu made an error here. When it comes especially to others, it's not time to be machmir. Avraham Avinu's life was in danger. And later on in the Torah, we'll find that Sarah Imenu would be tripped up with lying. Remember, Hashem said, why did she laugh? Avraham said, you laughed, and she said, Lo tzachakti. And the Rebbeinu Shalom, no, you laughed. So she was blamed of whatever type of vanilla lie that was. She only laughed because she thought they were Arabs. And we find Mida Keneged Mida, it's brought down that because she lied, the Satan was allowed to lie to her and say that Yitzchak was slaughtered at the Akedah, and because of that, Parcha Nishmasa. I don't know. This is all conjecture. But she shouldn't have been so machmir in a time of danger. Her husband said, say that I'm your brother. She should have said that. And there's a big lesson over here. And that is, be careful that you're not machmir because of frumkeit. Rav Fran says a good rule. There's almost no chumrah that's worth risking your shalom bayis about. To have a fight over a chumrah is absolutely ridiculous. The fight is much worse than the chumrah. We find by Chava. What was the situation by Chava? Chava told the Nachash, yeah, we're not supposed to eat from the Eitz Hadas, we're not supposed to touch it. And then he pushed her, and she touched it. And he said, just like nothing happened when you touch, nothing will happen when you eat it. Hashem never said not to touch it. She was machmir. We have to be very careful not to make chumras. It's a big problem today that there are women that don't make themselves properly attractive to their husband and exciting for their husband with mistaken tznius. And that chumrah causes big problems in shalom bayis. Yeah, we have to be very careful about this. The Anshe Sedaim Roim v'chatoim la'Hashem ma'od. And the men of Tzadayim were evil and sinful to Hashem very much. I want to tell you a fascinating story from the Goyim. Very fascinating. It's brought down by the Mara Gadol. It's brought down in the Agudas of Chai. We know the Goyim learned Yom V'Layla. At the end of the year, he counted only minutes that he was Mavatal. And we know that he slept only 2 hours in a 24-hour period. He slept a half an hour 4 times a day. Slept at 11:30, and then he slept 4 half-an-hour periods in the day. I think 11:36, 11:30, and 6. Four half-an-hour periods. They would ask the Goyim in Vilna to sometimes come to a public asifa. And the Goyim said that he'll only come to an asifa where they're making a new takana. So one time they called him, and the takana that they were making is Vilna was a big city, and it had a lot of poor people, and it didn't have enough resources, so they wanted to enact that no poor people should be allowed to come from outside into Vilna. And the guy was visibly upset, and he said that I told you I only want to come if it's a new takana. So they said, it is a new takana. So what do you mean? That this was a takana that was already made by the 4 aratzes. So they assumed he was talking about the venerable Vad La'arba aratzes. There was a Vad La'arba aratzes that made. They said it's not in the log of the Vad La'arba aratzes. He said, I'm not talking about the Vad La'arba aratzes. I'm talking about Sdoim HaMoira Adma and Tzvoyim. This was a takana that was already made by Sdoim HaMoira that poor people were not allowed in the city. You know, there are shuls that make the poor people stand outside. They don't allow them to come in.
Okay.
They ostensibly do it in order that the tefillah shouldn't be disturbed. I find this a very distressing custom. The beauty of a shul is that the poor people come in. You know, a poor person comes to you, he's enhancing your davening. It gives you a chance for a beautiful midah keneged midah. It says when we're davening, we're supposed to be ka'ani. Ha'omer ala Pesach. Tefillah la'ani kiyatay. So when we give to a poor person midah keneged midah, Hashem will give to us. To keep the aniyim outside, it's mavaza them, standing outside there. They don't get as much. The guy is saying over here, this is the behavior of Sdoim and Amora. And I want to talk to you about another topic. Hinei no yadati ki isha yafas ma'arat. Right? Abraham Avinu says, I now know, no, the Targum he's translating, I now know. They're living together for probably 3/4 of a century, or close to it. I now know that you're a beautiful woman. Now, besides the obvious question, what do you mean now know? It says, some say he saw a reflection in the Nile. Now, you now know. It says she was called Yiska Shakol Seichen B'Yafya. Everybody looked at her beauty. So everybody knew and he didn't know. And they all ask, what do you mean? It says you're not allowed to be Mekadosh and Isha unless you look at her. So what do you mean, I now know? So the Heilige Rishna The Heilige Rishon Rebbe zech tzav kosh v'achas chusi yagen aleinu. And I saw this answer given by others as well. But the Heilige Rishon Rebbe says as follows. There's two reasons why Sarah was called Yiska. She'akol soichen b'yafya, and she'socha b'ruach HaKodesh. She saw with Ruach HaKodesh. He says the two are totally one on the other. Why akol soichen b'yafya? She should have covered some of her beauty. It says that a woman shouldn't cause people to be over l'fnei iver, to have hirurim. And yet she's walking around, she'akol soichen b'yafya. So he says, beauty that stems from Shechina. Because a person has Shechina. And that causes them to shine. Because Chachmas Adam Torah Panav. Like it says, Vayaroi Seiki Toivim, when Moshe Rabbeinu was born, the whole house became filled with light. Rabbi Yehuda's face used to shine till a Roman matron woman said, Mori Varavi, you're a posek and a drunkard. You look like you're a drunk. And Rabbi Yehuda says, what are you talking about? I'm so allergic to wine that when I drink the Abakais, I have to put an ace bandage till Shavuos. Ela chachmas adam Torah panav. When the beauty comes from the shine of the Shechina, I had my Talmud many years ago, Rani Shuda went to the Felt Forum and saw the Klozemer Rebbe. He said, the shine of the Klozemer Rebbe kept me going for months. That's the Chachmas Adam Torah Panav. A beauty that's pure doesn't cause sin. Midavar Toiv, Ra doesn't come. And Vati Esther Noisas Chein Beinei Kol Reheha is because she had that shine of the Shechina. Avram thought that the shine was from the Shechina. But when they came down to Mitzrayim, a place full of idolatry, full of tumah, the Shechina left. And he saw she was still pretty. So that means besides the shine of the Shechina, she had a natural beauty. Oh, Avram says, now I see that you're also a beautiful woman besides the beauty of the shine of the Shechina. That's dangerous. That's dangerous. That could cause problems. And that's why it says by Rivka, she was beautiful, v'ish lo yada. Rivka lived Besuel in a very promiscuous place. But v'ish lo yada, because her beauty was a beauty of Shechina. A beauty of Shechina is not. So nobody, when you learn this story, people say, see from Avram, he didn't enjoy the beauty of his wife, and her husband maybe shouldn't be enjoying the beauty of his wife. No, that's not the case. Just meant that I see now that besides your Shechina beauty, I see that you have a natural beauty. I didn't know that. Now that the Shechina left because of the Getchkas, because of the promiscuity of Mitzrayim, this kind of beauty could get you into trouble. And therefore we have to take precaution. I want to thank everybody. Again, I want to thank Dr. Block for coming through and sponsoring it so properly that the hostages should be saved, should come true. Remind you that we do need a sponsor for next week, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Also remind you that I've began to stock my YouTube channel with a lot of interesting shiurim. Just lately, I have a series on Orchos Chaim LaRosh, which I now started putting up on YouTube. I put the first 3. There's 150, maybe 155 teachings So we're already up to, each has 2. So we already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And there are many shiurim on Parshas Lech Lecha. If you do go to the YouTube, make sure to like it and make sure to subscribe. Thank you very, very much for joining us. Have a good night and a good Shabbos. And we're going to do now the Mishnah Yomis.